Hi everybody, welcome back for session 3 of MSP 2741. This session and the accompanying assignment will be due Sunday 2/9 by midnight. For this assignment that goes with this session, just answer again question number 1. We will get to question number 2 the next time. So again, for session 3 in your Google Drive account, in the session 3 class summary, just do question 1 for this time. All right, today we're going to be doing another Prezi. I'm going to take you through a couple of different things. We're going to talk about selecting a cause, how you can go about doing that. Again, I know that people have expressed, a lot of people in the class have expressed the idea that they're worried about picking the right thing or how to go about picking the right thing, the right cause, the right organization. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can go about doing that. We're going to talk about how you can sort of assess your skills and then how do you use those skills to either create something, raise awareness about something, or teach something to others? I'll show you a couple of examples. We'll go very briefly through the selecting a cause lesson, and I'll take you through the homework example, and we'll wrap up. So let me just open up the Prezi. Again, as I mentioned last time, this is a great online tool. It's a great way to create sort of unconventional presentations where you can zoom around the screen for different things. If you have something very visual you want to convey, this is a great way to do it. So let's begin. First of all, I want to take you through a bunch of things that are actually in the lesson for selecting a social movement, but I wanted to take you through it a little bit. The very first thing you're going to want to do when trying to select a cause is think about what you're interested in. So, as I've written here, chances are you probably already care about something and are very passionate about something, right? And it could fall in the category of these things, or it might be something totally different, right? Some people might be concerned with sustainability and living a green lifestyle, with gender inequality, with particular religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs, politics, art, education, right? All of these things could be potential ways for you to start a project. And remember, when we're talking about a social movement, we're gonna, in a lot of ways, veer away from the Occupy Wall Streets, the anonymous groups, the Arab Springs, because really I want this to be something you're very passionate about, but also something that is feasible for you to do. And that's going to make even more sense as we go along. So start by picking something you're passionate about. So for me, when I use my summer bridge examples, that would really fall under education or children's movements, literacy even. It could potentially fall under art and music because that's part of this education. But really it's all about education. So that's kind of where my movement was coming from. You also want to start to think in terms of that cause that you select, politics of some kind, art, whatever you pick up above, why are you qualified to do work for this particular cause? So start thinking about what it is that you bring to the table. What are some of your strengths? You know, are you a great writer? Are you a creative writer? Are you a filmmaker, a photographer, an artist of some kind? Do you write music or perform music? Have you worked on any projects in the past that were for nonprofits or charity organizations? Have you done any projects at Temple or at other schools in high school that you could see yourself working on again and working on in a more long-term way? So these are a couple of questions that you can ask yourself as you try to figure out not only what you like and are passionate about, but what you're good at, right? It's so important to assess our strengths and our weaknesses to know what we're actually going to be capable of doing. The next thing, again, this is on the website on the selecting a cause lesson. These are just some ways, again, that you can start to brainstorm. So can you do a particular thing, or are you good at a particular thing? You know, if you're a mechanic and you fix cars in your spare time, or you've worked, you know, one of your parents is a mechanic and taught you how to work on cars, maybe that's something that you can teach other people. You know, people are constantly looking for help with how do we trust a mechanic? How do we know what they're telling us is true? How do we do simple things like change our own oil to more complicated things like working on engines? That could be a great thing to teach someone. Same thing with any of the things on these lists, right? You could teach someone how to create their own jewelry, how to hunt or fish, how to fight in some way, you know, self-defense fighting, how to write poetry. Or you could take these kinds of things and turn them into raising awareness about them, or creating something that maybe you donate or give to people in order to empower them or enhance their lives in some way. So if you're an artist, maybe you donate your art to a school or a retirement home. Maybe you cook or bake food and bring it down to a homeless shelter and encourage other people to do the same. And these are things where you're going to use your website and your social media to put that out into the world and to encourage other people to follow in your footsteps. You can also do things like raise awareness about, maybe there's programs in the area, or maybe you feel it's important for children to have acting and art education, right? How can you go about raising awareness about that topic? Why is it important? Why might people want to get behind that, right? So this is a good list to get you started. Okay, so this next part is something that's also on the selecting a cause lesson, but I wanted to kind of take you through these things because I think that they're important. So what I did was I created a couple of different ideas that you could potentially use when you're using your movement, right? Public service announcements, you could do a photo series, maybe performance art, satire or parody. You could create some kind of online community, a series of how-to videos, or you could donate particular things. So I want to go back through these and just kind of talk a little bit about why each of these might be a good route to take. So in terms of public service announcements, and I put an example of one on the website, and we'll look a little bit at one later. The idea is that you want to spread awareness about a cause, and so you make a video or a series of videos. PSAs are generally 30 to 60 seconds. They could be radio or television. What you might want to do is an actual sort of commercial, and it's an educational tool. It's to encourage people to learn more about a particular topic. So you could potentially make a public service announcement or a series of public service announcements, put them on your website, send them out on your social media, send them out through your networks, and encourage people to come to your website. Direct traffic to your website where you could have all kinds of resources on there, right? You could have ways that people can get involved in the cause, or ways that people can learn more about whatever the topic is. If it's safe sex, if it's sustainability, is it democratic values, whatever it is, right? So PSAs are a good option. You could do a photo series. So I've seen a lot of different photo series when I look through various articles, and people are doing some really amazing work in a sort of catalog of photos. And just like the sort of cliche expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words, it's so true, right? You can convey a profound amount of meaning and emotion in just one image. And so, the idea that I sort of came up with was you could do a photo series on a lot of different things having to do with Philly and cleaning Philly up and making sure Philly is in good hands, right? So maybe you want to work on an issue or cause dealing with clothing the homeless or helping the homeless. Maybe you go around and take pictures of, you know, people that are living in squalor with likely with their permission, right? Or, sort of cleared out places where homeless people have clearly slept, or things that would indicate this is a problem and we need to help people, right? We need to fix this. You could talk about sustainability in Philadelphia and take images of the trash that's everywhere, or particular lots that are filled with trash and abandoned, or whatever, right? So a photo series can be a great way to demonstrate a particular injustice and to raise awareness about how you might want to fix that, right? Okay, performance art is another thing that you could do to raise awareness about a particular topic or to inspire people, to empower people, and you could really go any different direction with this. You may have a particular talent in the arts that you want to use, right? You want to use to empower people, whether it's acting, dancing, singing, playing music. Maybe that art becomes about whatever cause you want to talk about, right? You could have someone film your performances. You could post those on your website, on your social media sites. You could encourage other people to film performance art in the city or film their own performance art. Send that into you where you post it on your website. So really all of these are about creating a community feel, but I want you to do what you're good at and do what you love. If you're an artist of any kind, use that. It's a great tool for spreading messages about different things. You could also do some sort of satire or parody. A great place to look for these kinds of things are like on SNL. As silly as that seems, they do a lot of parodies, a lot of satire, and you could learn from them, right? You can learn how to take an issue and flip it and point out all the flaws in it, point out how ludicrous something is. You could post that on your website, you could send it out. Maybe you send it to a local TV station. Maybe you try and get it in a local newspaper, a temple newspaper, the temple news station, right? You could ask other people looking at your website to send in their work or their thoughts on an issue and on a particular satire or parody. So you can go a lot of different directions with that idea. Creating a community, again, all of these projects are in some ways going to do that, right? Your website is going to be a hub where your viewers can come and learn more about a particular cause or idea or organization, where they can view content, read content, maybe post their own content or send you content to post, where they can provide feedback on a blog or whatever, right? So you want to really create a space where people enjoy coming, they feel comfortable sharing their opinions there, and where they go for resources whenever they need information on the topic you choose. How-to videos, I think this is such an important media or medium in our culture right now. We're living in this do-it-yourself culture where you want to learn something, you just go on the internet, you Google it, you go on YouTube, and there are tons of videos on how to do anything you could really think of. So if you have a particular skill and you feel that that's a skill worthy of passing on to someone, maybe you make some how-to videos, post those on your site, provide resources for people to learn more about those skills. These are the kinds of things that can empower others, and in my mind, that's a movement, right? That's you taking what you know and spreading it to other people in positive ways. The last idea I was thinking about is donating your time or your expertise or your art creations for different causes. So if you are interested in arts education, maybe you create a website and make it into sort of a portfolio of your own to showcase your work, and you take it to schools in Philly and you try and create a program there, or a session there where you go and you teach the kids after school how to do art, and you post their art on your site and you send it out, and it snowballs from there, right? Another idea that we're going to talk about in a little bit is you could create something that you donate, right? Whether it's art or clothing you've made, something you've cooked or baked, right? You can go out and bring that into the world and sort of report back on your experience. Okay, so what I want to do now is sort of take you through these different options of creating, teaching, or raising awareness. And of course, you can combine these things in any number of ways, but I want to take you through a couple of examples and show you how some ideas some students have already talked to me about could potentially work, and hopefully those will inspire you to move forward in your own cause and select particular ideas. So the starting point really is, what skills or knowledge do you possess and what are you passionate about, right? Those are the two things you really need to start with. If you're not passionate about the topic you pick, it's going to suck. It's not going to be fun to do this project, and you're not going to continue it after the semester's over. That's a sure bet, is if you're not passionate about it. Also, what skills or knowledge do you possess? So like I said before, you really need to assess what your strengths and weaknesses are, what things you're really good at, you love doing, and you're knowledgeable about. So we're going to look at, again, what is something that you can create using your skills, what is something you might be able to teach using those skills, and what is something you might be able to raise awareness about based on the knowledge you already have about a particular topic. So we're going to go back and we're going to start with creation. So you want to ask yourself these kinds of questions. What is it that you can actually create? Who will the creation help or affect? So really, who is your target audience? Can you donate what you make? Can you get others to help you donate? And who would you donate to and why? Right? So these are important questions to ask yourself if you are going to create something, whether it's online media or art of some kind that's in a different medium. You want to know what it is that you can create. So there's an example. One student in class has already talked to me about this idea, and I think it's an awesome idea, and I was kind of trying to spitball with her, give her some possibilities. So she's good at knitting and crocheting, right? That's a skill that she has that she feels comfortable with. So my first question would be, what is it that you could knit? So let's pretend it's hats, right? We haven't quite talked this part out yet, but let's just pretend she can knit hats really well. What you would want to do then is ask yourself some of these questions. What kind of pattern will you work from? How long will it take to knit one single hat? What materials will you need? How much will the materials cost? And where and when will you get the materials, right? So no matter what she chooses to actually knit, whether it's a fanny pack or a shirt, a sweater, a scarf, whatever, the logistics, those questions are going to be the same, right? How exactly are you going to create it? Where do the materials come from? And how long is it going to take? Okay, so we're going to go with she's going to knit hats, right? Well, but how can you turn knitting hats into a social movement? That's the real question, right? So my question in response is, can you knit for a purpose? So I just kind of ran with this idea. This is not necessarily what she's going to do, but just as an example, she might pick a homeless shelter in Philadelphia, a local homeless shelter. If she does that, she's going to have to ask herself, can she actually donate her hats to this shelter? Who's going to benefit from that? So obviously the people that use the shelter because they are homeless, right? She's going to have to pick a specific organization. Is there a particular population that organization provides to? So for example, there are women's shelters, right, where women and children go, or men's shelters, or soup kitchens, right? So there's all different kinds. You'd have to really narrow it down. And then you really need to ask yourself, when can you contact this organization and what exactly will you offer them? So she might contact, Project Home and say, look, I'm doing a project for school. Here are the details of the project. I'm going to be knitting hats and I'm going to be trying to get other people to join this cause with me. Is it possible to donate these hats? When can I do that? Can I come and meet people? Right? All these kinds of questions. So once you have an idea or a skill, you need to start thinking about the population that you might want to serve, right? And how you can go about doing that. My next sort of thought process is, okay, we want to continue this into a movement. So she's got a skill, the knitting. She's got a product she can actually create, the hats. She's got a cause, right, clothing the homeless. And she's got a potential place where she wants to donate her creations to. The next step is, can you get others to join your cause? This is really the movement part of it, right? So where I would start is, who do I already know that can knit or has knit hats or extra hats that they're willing to donate, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that they create them themselves, but who do I already know that would be interested in this cause or has the skills to be part of this cause, right? I would also look for any local knitting clubs or groups in Philadelphia high schools or Philly meetups that do similar things or do something, that could translate into this idea. Or you could make your own Philly meetup, right? You could make your own group, even on Temple's campus. There has to be hundreds of people who can knit, at least, if not thousands, who go to Temple University just here in Center City, right? Can you create a club where you get people together to do this with you, right? Then you want to think about how are you going to turn your website, which you have to do, right? That's really the only turn in this class, right, is the website. That's like the final project, right? So how can you turn that website into a hub for other people, specifically other knitters, to connect with you, right? So this is a place where they might go to find patterns, to find the pattern you're using, to find places where they can get cheap supplies in Philadelphia or in other places around the country, if that's where they're coming from, where they can talk with each other, where they can respond to each other, post pictures of their creations, where you can post pictures of you actually in the shelter with the people, with the hats, right? this could really be a place where you organize your people and where you start I imagine it almost like Amazon, except much less refined. But the idea that you're sort of orchestrating the collection of these hats and that you would then yourself bring them to the shelter. So that to me is an outstanding idea. She can go in so many different directions with just the idea that she has a skill and that she could potentially donate what she produces, right? And from there, she can make a lot of different decisions, okay? So that's one option is you have a skill and you want to create a tangible thing and give that to others, right? And some of the needy populations, even just in Philadelphia, children, especially public school kids, public school system's not great, okay? Um, Also, the needy kids in the area are not going to have access to a lot of after school programming. That's an option. Elderly people, homeless people, people with disabilities, right? These are populations that could really use your help. So that's one option. Another thing that you can do is take the skills that you have and teach them, right? Again, DIY culture is so important. It's so interesting. It's a really great time in our society when you don't necessarily have to go to school to learn something. You don't have to pay to learn something. You can go on YouTube and learn from someone else. So when you're thinking about this idea, if you want to teach something or have the ability to teach something, first you got to think, what can you teach? Who are you going to teach it to? So who's your target audience? Why are you going to teach it? And that question really goes into the next one. How will the skill you teach help or affect other people? Can you empower people with this skill in some way, shape, or form? And can you get other people to help teach? Right? Can you get people to join in this community and teach each other? So I came up with this example. Let's say you have a great, I spelled health wrong. Just pretend that says health. If you have a great knowledge of health, fitness, and nutrition, maybe you're an athlete or a former athlete, maybe you are a yoga instructor, maybe you take classes all the time, whatever it is, right? Maybe you're a health, fitness, nutrition person. So you could think about what you might want to teach in that vein. What subject are you knowledgeable about? Why are you passionate about this particular thing, about people being fit and healthy? Why are you qualified to teach that subject? What don't you know about the subject? And are you going to teach yourself that information or not? Right? Is that important information for you to know in order to pass knowledge on? You could then think about why it's important for people to know this information. So why is it important to pass on this knowledge or this skill to other people? In terms of health and fitness, it's extremely important to pass that information on, right? It's important for every single person in the whole world to know at least a little bit about health and fitness and nutrition and what is good to eat versus unhealthy to eat, or how exercise affects your body in positive ways. So you want to think about how you teaching this particular subject can empower others. Who is your target audience? So maybe you can't teach the whole world, right, how to do a specific thing, but maybe you can teach a novice weight trainer how to better their weight training skills or new methods of weight training, right? Maybe you can talk to specific types of athletes or, yoga people, whatever. And then how will teaching others enhance your own skills and knowledge about that topic? So a lot of times when we teach, it helps to reaffirm those things in our own brain, and it helps us to be motivated to learn more about that topic and discover new things on our own. The next thing I would think about in terms of a teaching project is how exactly are you going to teach it? So in my mind, there are a lot of different options, whether you turn your website into an online community where people can share their ideas about nutrition and fitness. You could create how-to guides, whether it's nutrition, how-to, right? Or workout routines or new moves. You can do mini cooking lessons, right? How do you take not so great food and make it a little bit healthier, or 30-minute meals or whatever. You can provide resources, additional resources for people to learn how to get healthy. You could even do something like a review of local gyms or a review of fitness programs or those like Connect video games or Wii video games that are about fitness. where you are teaching people and informing them about what they can get involved in, how good it is, and why they should be doing it. Another thing that you might want to do is simply raise awareness about a topic. So you want to think about your knowledge or your skill set and start thinking about why it's important to raise awareness about it and how you can go about doing that. Again, you're going to think about what topics you're passionate about. In terms of raising awareness, it's typically going to be about something that you feel is unjust or unfair or a problem. And so raising awareness is part of the solution to fixing that problem. So you need to think about what information you can and should provide to others, how are you going to display that information, and how can others take that information and spread it. So another student in our class has introduced this idea to me. She worked at an organization, this one over here called Greystone Manor. It's horseback riding as therapy for people with disabilities. Seems like a really, really cool organization. It's sort of exactly along the lines of what I'm imagining. Now, we went back and forth a little bit. She was wondering if she could do something actually about this Greystone Manor. And what we ended up deciding was the organization she worked for is already so well established that it would be sort of inappropriate for her to make a whole nother website. And she could only really do that or start social media about it if she had the permission of those people. And that's probably not going to happen, right? So again, with Summerbridge, I'm one of two administrators. I've worked there for 7 years. There was no official website. I had the power to do those things and the permission to do those things. So that's another thing. If you already work for an organization, a small level organization, you are not going to be able to create things specifically for it unless you have permission to do that. So keep that in mind. So instead, what we decided is a little bit different route that she might take. So when you're thinking about existing organizations that you already belong to or that you know about, you want to kind of think through these questions. You know, what already exists and what does that organization do? What kind of work does it do? Are you high enough in that organization that they will entrust you with spreading their message and their brand? You could even just research organizations that do similar work. You might contact those organizations to get resources or advice, and you want to be able to generate interest about these organizations. So really, for her project, what we started thinking about was, can she simply raise awareness about riding therapy, right? About horses and riding as therapy for people with disabilities. And I think that's an incredible cause. It's certainly worthy of spreading the message, both two messages really, how we can use animals as therapy and how people with disabilities need education in all different kinds of ways and need therapy in all different kinds of ways, and that these two things together are a great thing. In terms of raising awareness, you want to think about why this particular organization or why the topic in general is so important to you, to other people in general. Who is the service actually helping or affecting? Who is the target audience? Who do you want to promote awareness to and why? You want to think about how promoting this cause could empower other people, specifically the group that will be affected. How are you going to spread that message? And how can you move, potentially, from raising awareness to creating your own organization? And I certainly don't expect you to create your own company or organization in the next, 10 or 11 weeks, right? That's not going to happen for the most part. But hopefully at the end of the semester, what you have done here can be the groundwork for something much bigger. And if you continue, who knows what you can do? You could open your own organization. You could network and find people to buy into it. And what better way to get people involved and seeing what you're doing than have a website and have social media and have your own logo and have a mission statement? All these things that we're going to be doing. Goal setting and what you hope to accomplish. These are sort of it's laying the groundwork of a business plan that you could potentially bring to other people and maybe get investors or maybe get people interested. Again, in terms of raising awareness, one of the biggest things that you're going to be doing is trying to get others to get behind you and get behind this cause. So again, one first step is, who do you already know that's committed to this cause or interested in it? So for this student, it might be going back to her job and saying, hey, is anyone interested in helping me? Can anyone point me in the right direction? Is there anything I need to know before I get started on this project? You also want to think about the kinds of information that the general public should know, or that the target audience should know about this cause. You want to provide resources for people to learn more about the cause. So in this student's case, she's really going to want to try to drive traffic from her website to the Greystone Manor website, right? Actually getting people on the websites where the organization actually exists already. You want to think about how people can help support this cause and think of ways that on your website you can get people involved. And again, create a community on your website where people can discuss these matters, where they can ask questions and get answers, where they can share their stories. Creating that kind of online community, it may seem daunting, but it's possible, right? It's totally possible. Based on your network and your network's network and their network, right? It's that ripple effect. So those are the kinds of things that I want you to think about. In terms of the next steps after that, once you pick whatever you're going to do, the next steps are exactly what we're going to do in this class. You're going to pick a title and a logo, you're going to create a mission statement, build your website, generate a social media presence, collect resources, contact people, right? That's what's going to come next. But before you can do that, you need to know what cause you're championing, what thing you're going to teach, what thing you're going to create, and why you're doing those things. Who is it that you want to help or empower or affect? Why is it that you want to do those things? So that's all very, very important. Now, in terms of getting creative with this project, I really want you to think out of the box. There are so many different things that you can do to get people's attention, and I wanted to show you just a couple of things that I came across that kind of exemplify what I'm talking about. So I just want to do a couple quick examples. This one I found, you may have come across this, it's a picture series, and what this kid did, I think he's a high school student, he found pictures of every president and he mimicked them and he put them on Instagram, and the result is actually quite funny. It's really sort of charming and interesting, and what I really wanted to point out was he's just a regular kid and he had an idea, and all he had to do was find images of presidents, he mimicked them, he posted them on Instagram. Now he's written up in how many articles, and he's on BuzzFeed and on these different places. This is interesting, right? There's something here that you could potentially translate into your own idea and into your own cause. So in terms of a project like this, a photo series, how could you take this idea and change it or morph it into your own? And what exactly would you use it for in terms of raising awareness for your cause? So again, that's really going to depend on your topic and on your goals, but this is easy, right? This is simple. We've got smartphones with cameras in them, digital cameras. There are probably a ton of cameras in the School of Communication that you could sign out and use, right? We have all of the tools that we could possibly need. You don't have to be a professional photographer to do this. This is just some high school kid, right? It's just, you could do whatever you want, really. There's no limits. And for the technology, that's not the limit, right? You have access to all of that, whether it's in the tech center or you have it on your own, you've got the access. And I mean, if you look at this kid, there's ones where, like, his beard, it's not real facial hair, it's just paper. He just colored paper in, right? This is just paper with marker on it, you know? So you can do a lot of different things and potentially generate some really interesting buzz. Another example, I really love this one because I think this woman is so interesting. This woman, Danica McKellar, she actually was an actress on a show called The Wonder Years. You might be too young to know what that is, but a great show. It's with, you know, the kid who played Corey Matthews in Boy Meets World. It's his brother, who of course the name is slipping my mind, but he's the main character. Anyway, this woman ends up transitioning out of being a child actress into working on math, right? She gets her degree, she's really smart. She created a series of books about teaching math to kids and making math fun. And she apparently just recently started this series of math bites on the Nerdist channel, right? So she's working through an organization, but really what she's creating when you break it down is educational videos. Again, YouTube is so easy. You can just record something on your webcam and post it to the internet, right? You can use a smartphone. You can use all different kinds of video cameras and software and things that a novice can use, right? Again, they don't have to be professional level equipment. It can be the things that you already have access to. So, this is the kind of thing, I mean, look, it's so simple, right? You could do this in Photoshop, or you could do this even in something like Pages or Word. Create backgrounds, put them into iMovie or any editing software that you have, and talk about a cause, educate people on a particular topic. So this is a great example. I highly recommend that you go visit her channel and take a look at some of her videos. That link will be on the Selecting a Cause page lesson, so you can check that out then. Another example, here's another photo series. Again, these are very popular, but you could take them in all different directions. This is a woman who took old pictures of herself as a child and she photoshopped her current self into those pictures. It's such an interesting idea, and we can have all different opinions on what statement she's making, but the point is, this is a really interesting concept, and you can translate this idea to make it work for you and for your movement. How can you use Photoshop, a pretty simple tool, to create something that no one's ever seen before, or to create something compelling, right? How can you take old images and change them and make them new again? How can you take the concept of childhood and adulthood and put them together in new ways and shed light on a particular issue, right? Again, I mean, it doesn't take a lot to do these things. You don't have to be sitting there for months on end creating this stuff. You get an idea, you try it, and you use the tools that are already in your repertoire and already in your hands. Right? The final example I wanted to talk about, this is an interesting one, and again, I provided the link for this PSA on the Selecting a Cause lesson, which you'll see in a second. So this guy decided to make a safe sex PSA, which, a very important topic, and what he did was he took something sort of taboo and he made it really simple and straightforward and funny and weird and kind of awesome and made this PSA. He uses simple things. He's got a plastic glove and hot dogs and bagels and a blue screen, right? It's not like this is uh, particularly high quality work, but the end product is really put together. And so, if you're thinking about educating people on something or raising awareness, a PSA could do that, or a series of PSAs. And you can get really creative with just simple tools and tech. Okay, so what I want to do is really quickly kind of go through the Selecting a Cause lesson and just kind of show you what I expect, if I can get to it. Alright, so selecting a cause. Again, I know a lot of people have expressed concerns about wanting to pick the right thing and being a little worried about not picking the right thing. There's no need to worry because we're all passionate about something, and you just have to tap into that and figure out what you're going to do with that passion, with that topic. So really take some time and think about what you're interested in. Think about what your strengths are as a creative person, as a human being in general, and how you might combine those two things to teach someone or raise awareness or create something that will empower people. I want you to really think about, again, what I went over before. What are your specific skills? And what is your specific knowledge? And how can you do good with it on a larger scale? I also gave a couple more examples because I think we're still a little bit unclear about how I'm imagining a social movement. Again, it doesn't have to be a worldwide movement. It doesn't have to be something that you might think is typically serious, right? It could be that you fix cars. and you create how-tos about it and show people how to find a trusty or trustworthy mechanic, right? Maybe you're an artist and you create art and donate it to a poor school in Philadelphia to bring the kids some joy, and you use your website to document that experience. Maybe you're good with money and good at finding deals, and you teach people how to be more fiscally responsible or how to create a budget, or you provide your own budget sheets for them that you've made, or you show how they can take things, um, you know, make nice meals out of canned food or frozen foods, right? You could do anything. Maybe you're a boxer or a fighter of some kind, MMA or martial arts, and you teach people self-defense through videos and um, organize an online community. Maybe you sing or do performance art, and you can go out in the community and do that, and again, use your website as a way to document that experience. So I want you to take my examples, everything I've showed you in this lesson, everything that's on the website as examples, and think about how they inspire you and how you can take these ideas and change them, grow them into something that's totally your own. Again, I put this here, I already went over this, but I have this here so that you can kind of go back and really dig deeper into these ideas. And again, this is not, you're not limited to these things. These are just some things that immediately came to my mind that I thought would be helpful for you. You can do anything as long as it makes sense and it's feasible, right? So here, I want you to, when you're doing this lesson, go through some of these. I put up a couple of different things. So this is a guy who released 1,000 3 to 5 second videos in one day. He is a performance artist, right? This is a great website where this person has all of her portfolios up, some really amazing photography. And photography, again, it displays a message, it displays emotion, it makes a statement. We've got the PSA that I showed you, the president mimicry that I showed you, the Danica McKellar series, and the Photoshop series. So check out at least one or two of these. Click on these pictures, go to the sites that it takes you. It's either going to be an article or that person's actual site. And I've also posted a lot of these things on our course blog. And in fact, I've posted a lot of other things that I've been finding on the Temple website. So if you look down at the categories, if you click on social movement ideas and Temple news, you're going to find a lot of really cool things that people are doing generally in the world that's creative and that students are doing at Temple that you could potentially do, right? It's a great inspiration to see people your own age doing something on a large scale. I also put a lot of really cool sites here that if you're looking for more inspiration, these sites tend to have that inspiration for, right? They're constantly writing articles about different people who are creating and doing good in the world. So check out at least one or two of these as well. I've got some extension readings. And then for homework, what I really want you to do is after you select a cause, I want you to find 2 organizations, and they can be local or not, that champion that same cause or a very similar cause. I want you to go visit those sites, see what they're doing, see how they're tackling this issue, see what kind of information they're putting out there, how they lay out their website, how they incorporate social media. Explore those websites pretty thoroughly. And then you're going to do a free write. What did you find? What are your thoughts about this cause? How might you be able to contribute to this cause? You know, how can you take what you see and translate that into something new or better or different, right? And again, my example is up. It's actually posted on there, but if you go to my example page, it's actually the first one up. But anytime you want to look for a particular post, click on the tag over here. So here's my example if you're looking for an idea of what I'm expecting, okay? So that's the basic gist of everything. Again, I just want to pull up the deadlines. So by 2/5, which is this Wednesday at midnight, you should have your Weebly intro, screenshots, and Google Drive lessons complete. Those are under lessons, the first 3 here. There's 3 separate homeworks for those that you're posting on your blog. And again, remember that I have all those examples on my own blog. Then this session 3, selecting a cause video, is going to be due by 2/9, that's Sunday at midnight. Again, for the class summary, just do the first question. I am not going to go back and re-upload a million pages into people's folders individually. So again, just do the first question. If you want to kind of do a little extra rumination, feel free to use the second question as a way to think back about how the course is going for you. Are you on task? Are you on top of things? Are you getting anything out of what we've been doing? But that's optional. So again, just do question 1 for the session 3 class summary. And then you're going to have 2 lessons coming up, the social movements, selecting a cause, and goal setting. So within this next week, week and a half, I really want you to kind of hammer out a particular idea that you're going to do. And what's going to happen is I'm going to be providing you some feedback, particularly where the project proposal is concerned, in terms of, is your idea feasible? How might we make it more feasible? And are you on the right track? Okay, so that's all we've got for this session. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Remember that my office hours for this class are Tuesday nights from 8 to 10 p.m., where I'll be signed into my email and you can hear from me directly. Again, if you need anything, just let me know, and that is it for today.